1935, the Lions win the NFL championship. The Detroit Tigers take the World Series. The Red Wings bring home Lord Stanley's Cup. Joe Louis begins his rise to world domination. This transforms the Motor City into Detroit, City of Champions. There is the crack of the bats, and we are live for Champions Day. Charles.
Happy Champions Day.
Happy Champions Day.
Yes.
We tried kicking this off last year, right around Champions Day.
And then
our plan for the podcast, and then the world got very, very strange.
Yes.
And so we eventually got launched with the podcast, and we're up to episode number 30.
31.
We recorded last.
This is episode 31.
This will be episode 31.
Yep.
And we are, check this out. We got our roving reporter on the scene. We're at the Detroit Historical Museum. Sam's out front live.
That's awesome.
She's going
to outside cover.
Isn't that cool? So we're downtown in the Detroit Historical Museum in I forget what they call this gallery.
I think it's the Motor City Culture.
Motor City Culture,
yeah.
Yes. So we're in the Motor City Culture Gallery, and Samantha's like cruising through.
We got I love the
this.
Original marquee of the Tiger Stadium hanging right above us, which is like really incredible.
So it's just this easy to come to the Detroit Historical Museum. There's so many great things.
There's
inside here.
So cool, yeah.
They have cool stuff in the basement they don't even know about.
Oh, yeah. That's
a spoiler. We're going to get to how that works.
Story we're going to be getting to for sure.
And here comes Sam around the corner and into the gallery that we're in.
You pointed that up there?
And look at the Tiger Stadium sign,
yeah,
Samantha.
Samantha pointed up at the Tiger Stadium marquee.
Is that the original?
I believe so. I mean, what must be? Why would they? Why would they just randomly build one? I think that's the original marquee. Yeah.
April 18th every year has been designated
Champions Day. It was designated at the end of the season by the governor of Michigan
in 1936.
Yep, it was. Right? Yep, it was April 18th was the day, and then it's actually I was saying earlier before we started is that usually when we celebrate, we've been doing this every year. We've been celebrating pretty much every year, but most times, just like anything, a lot of times we celebrate maybe a day before, a day after, But this year is April 18th, and and it is actually the day. So.
Sap. And so we're here, we're enjoying it, and because there was a part of the whole big celebration was a big awards banquet, and players from like all the teams were there along with Joe Louis. Yeah. And it was just
well, I'll explain for people that haven't seen it. We're taking a big leap from where we were last week talking about the Red Wings to where we are now.
Let's do, because this might stand alone for people here or there.
All right. Yep.
So Detroit City of Champions. Give me that elevator pitch. What is Detroit City of Champions?
Well, yeah. So 1935, we have the greatest series of championship excellence that the world has ever seen. And I know that's a bold claim. People say, "Oh, maybe because you're partisan, you're from Detroit, you live in Detroit, you think this is the greatest year."
No.
But by all possible measures, there's been no season before
it could match it
that or could ever will match it.
Yeah.
With all the factors that took place. And a lot of it started. It all started prior to 1934 with the signing of Mickey Cochran for the Tigers at the end of 1933.
Yeah,
and so we talked about it in an earlier show how Frank Navin is the owner of the Tigers. He makes the boldest gamble of his life. And he acquires. He's in failing health. The team is terrible. He's got no fans. The Tigers are dreadful. They've been dreadful for a long time. And he goes out and all of his friends are telling him to sell the team and take this burden off.
Because he was a sickly cat.
He was he had a heart attack. He was he'd lost pretty much his entire fortune in the stock market crash. And rather than sell the team, rather than drop it all,
going big or going home.
He doubled down and put everything else he did have, went out and got a loan and put all of his money on and went and brought Mickey Cochran in from the Philadelphia A's. Yeah. And the rest, like sort of his history.
Yep. Then they went on.
The Tigers in 1934 go on to they win the pennant.
They play in the series.
Exactly. They go to the 7th game in the World Series. They lose, but
momentum.
In the middle of that 1934 run by the Tigers, the Detroit Lions are born. They're brought from Portsmouth to Detroit. Right. And so the Lions play their first year in 1934. They're named the Lions on account of this of the Tigers. And in 1934, Joe Louis is emerging out of nowhere. Sure. Nobody's ever heard of Joe Louis in 1934.
Out of the Black Bottom in Detroit.
Black Bottom, Detroit.
And so all these lying to his mom.
Yes, lying to his mom, telling him about that he's taking violin lessons, but he's using his money for boxing.
Yeah.
And so, and then at that moment, so all these, and then the Lions come in, they have a fantastic year. The Tigers have this fantastic year. The Red Wings have a terrible year, but they realize that these other teams are competing so well that they got to make a real big effort, and so they go out and start signing these stars to bring into their team. And so everything is laid out.
That was 34.
That was 1934.
Yep.
And so that laid down the foundation for what ended up happening in 1935.
Yes.
And so from my perspective, like where I sort of come into this was that I was a senior at Western in 2005.
Yeah.
And I came across this fact that the Tigers, Lions, and Red Wings had all won their championships in the same season.
Yeah.
And I had never heard this before. I tried to write a 2-page paper for a history class. I was taking a sports history class at this moment, and I could not find enough information to fill a 2-page paper.
It's awful.
Yeah. So like I'm either a horrible historian or there's no information. And I didn't think I'm a horrible historian. So I went with the latter. And so when I went to the original newspapers, I ended up making it my thesis to graduate from Western. And I found that there was 3 championships in Detroit in this 1935 season, but it was the first championship for each team.
Right.
In the same
So
season.
the first cup, the first World Series, and the first football
NFL championship all in the same season. You had the rise of Joe Louis, and alongside it, the more I researched, the more I dug into it, the more I found. And what I found was not 3 championships, but 33 championships all in the same season.
And they were known and they were celebrated back in 1936, 1935.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say. Yes. So like, there was, so the more that I dug into this, like the original thesis, I find out that it was the first 3 championships. I found out that there was a lot more stuff going on. And then the more I dug, the more I found, and the more I found, the more fascinated I was with this story.
Yeah.
Because when you're talking about 33 championships, that sounds like an obscene, like how many is that possible? How many sports are there?
Yeah.
I mean, but there is 33 different sports, and Detroit was champions in all of them in this one season in the middle of the Great Depression. Detroit's the hardest hit city, statistically speaking, during the Great Depression, and they have the greatest season. And to cap it all off, there's a huge party at the Masonic Temple at the end of the year, on April 18th, which is designated Champions Day by the Governor of Michigan City Council of Detroit. And the party is held at the Masonic Temple. Joe Louis is the guest of honor. 800 fans are in attendance. Bud Shaver for the Detroit Times is the MC of the event, and issued a special commemorative newspaper for the day.
Yes,
and it's this massive celebration, and then there's actually a holiday on the books that celebrated this incredible season called Champions Day. And then World War II comes, and this entire story vanishes.
Yeah.
For what I mean.
So is this a copy of the paper you have up on the easel next to you there?
Well, this paper behind me right here, this came out the day after the first Champions
Oh, that's the Free Press. That's out of the Detroit Free Press.
It's out of the Detroit Free Press.
Okay.
We a lot of times we put this on the header of our show. Because I like to
I don't
show
wanna
this.
scream that,
I like
yes.
to show this. This is my favorite paper because it shows, and this is an original. It's one of only 3 known originals in existence.
Jeez.
And so
gorgeous.
it shows at a glance, you can see that this shows 21 of the 33 championships in this one season.
Yeah.
And so I love it because it shows at a glance, how great this season was. It doesn't even show all. I mean, there's not even room on the paper for all of them, right? It's all the championships. So it just shows just how big it was at a single. That's why I call it the City of Champions season at a single glance. That's what I call this paper.
All right, so that's a little bit of the backstory, and that 2-page paper parlayed itself into a trilogy of books.
Yeah, now I got 3 books.
They're here on the table.
Yeah.
They go through the champions, the City of Champions story. By team, and then it dives into the players deeper, and the fans, and the reporters, and the owners, and it really dissects everybody involved in the story, and that's what we're doing on the podcast is going through each of these stories, each of the teams, each of the characters involved, because there's so many great characters, Bucko and Iffy the Delphster.
That's what I mean. Like this is
wonderful names and characters.
Oh, absolutely. This is what I mean. Like the richness of this story.
Yeah.
Like once you start, like anybody that started to dive into this story has been bit by the City of Champions bug. And look at yourself. You're bit.
Totally. I'm not a sports guy, and I'm loving every second.
That's what I mean. It's like it's like this. Like I call the first book focused on the season, like sort of an aerial view, like an overall summary of all the events of the story. But no sooner did I finish putting the last sentence down that I knew that there was a lot that I still did not know. And that was, the entire time I wrote the first book, I had virtually no idea who any of the players were.
Right.
I mean, the big guys like Hank Greenberg and Charlie Gehringer, And, some of these guys like, Joe Louis, of course, there's plenty of books written about them, but they didn't win the championships by themselves. And so there's all these names, and these like, just the names are what jumps off the paper. Like you mentioned a few of them, and I'll throw in a couple. Schoolboy Rowe.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Schoolboy Rowe.
I love that name.
It's like the greatest name.
Yeah.
I mean, they all have these nicknames, and it's this, this you're reading about it and you're seeing all these names, and the best I could do in the first book was put some very brief summaries down from some just quick things that I found, but I knew that there needed way more work about the players, like who were the players from 1935, and that's what the second series of books focuses on, which is it's called Detroit City of Champions, the players. And I initially started off to write it as one book, but it got so huge. I don't know if we can show on the screen, but it's like
they're there. People can see
pages
sitting on that phone book in front of you.
That's what I'm saying. It looks like together it looks like a phone book. So I had to really divide it in half, and so I went with the second book, which is Joe Louis and the 1935 Tigers, and then the third book, which is the Lions, Red Wings, and all the other champions of 35.
Right. So much like the City of Champions Day, your books are dedicated to all the sports and all the champions. It's not just a football book. It's not just a baseball book. It's not just a hockey book. It covers all the motorsports, the equestrian, the golf, the sharpshooters, the checker champion, just everybody that was a part of this. The hockey, the minor, would it call minor?
The minor Detroit Olympics, the minor league, the Olympics.
Through
the minor league team of the Detroit Red Wings. Yeah.
So it covers it all. And then Champions Day, April 18th, every year, celebrated here in Detroit. By us,
but that's what I mean. Like, there's no where's the has anybody
we do and
has
later,
any newspaper outlet, have you heard it on any other newspaper outlet? Mainstream, and any newspaper outlet even mentioned the fact that today is the anniversary of this. They called
amazing day.
Yeah, they called it at the time they called it the greatest gathering of champions under a single roof in history. Yeah. Because it was this huge party, as I mentioned, at the Historical Museum, or at the
Masonic Temple.
Masonic Temple. And I mean, it's just this massive event. I have all the original. I found so many different pieces of information from that day. Like, for instance, I have a Western Union telegram that was sent to Kathleen Hughes, one of the female golfers who was part of the women's doubles tennis champions. I have the original. I have at least a copy of the Western Union telegram sent to her to invite her to the party.
Love it.
And there's so many. So what we've been sort of 81 years later, we're looking for little scraps of information to fill in the story. And ever since when I wrote the first book, I really became a magnet for this stuff. I had a lot of family members reaching out to me from these people. Yes, I had a lot of people from all over the place. Like, I've met tons of family members from these players that are still living here in Detroit. And just the amount of memorabilia, at least photos of memorabilia that's come to me. It was cool because the first book really made me a magnet, so that the second and third books are really super in depth. They've got all this. You just wouldn't, you just wouldn't believe how much stuff I've got in here. Photos of original memorabilia and stuff.
And that's the thing. I love history. I love Detroit. And I love these books. It's a great collection of Detroit. Because even if you're not a sports fanatic, if you like history or if you like sports, this is a massive collection of incredible.
Yeah, and the way that I wrote images. It is, you've got the books that they really do. My goal was to really focus on 1935. I wanted to lay down, it's a pretty big claim to say, oh, this is the greatest season ever. Yeah. Oh, there's 33 championships. Yeah. Oh, all these things. But I wanted the overall goal with all of these was to nail down these so I can make these statements. Yeah. And that anybody that has any sort of objections to that, I've got the factual information sitting right here. You know what I mean? So it's to build a foundation of fact for these claims. So from this foundation of fact, we can start to rebuild, people's understanding and their memory of this story and bring it back. So it's a mainstream, widely celebrated event, or, that this story is reinserted into the overall, story of Detroit sports and Detroit history in general. Yep.
We're going to talk about that more at the celebration itself. What do we have to cover today? Because there's We're set up, like I said, it's the gallery here of the Detroit culture, right?
Well, yeah, gallery Detroit culture, and I mean, first and foremost, is this big wooden thing that's sitting behind us in this glass frame.
This
I think we should talk about this.
You want to talk about spoiler alert?
Spoiler alert!
It's here.
This massive wooden plaque behind us.
But the problem, Sam, I don't know if you can like zoom in with the camera. Yeah, go ahead.
Or maybe the second camera she's floating around.
So.
With.
Yeah, she can zoom in. I did that one fell offline, but so the plaque behind us, there's and that's really what we wanted to talk about today. We wanted to tell the story of the plaque. Up at the very top is the seal of Detroit.
Yeah,
and then there's a nice inscription, and then there's you see a bunch of little plaques. Each and every one of those plaques, the one up at the tippy top there, signed by our president at the time,
Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
Yep.
And those tabs are signed by all the governors from every governor in the country declaring.
Oh, you can still a little bit read what the inscription says. A nation, and if you're listening to this, you got to go find us on YouTube or Facebook, because you'll be able to see these amazing images. A nation appreciative of those qualities of character essential to success in our competitive athletics salutes Detroit, which in this year, 1936, richly merits recognition as the city of champions. So this is a national recognition from the president
and every governor in the country.
Every governor in the country for Detroit, expressing the qualities of what it is to be a
city of champions.
A champions, a city.
City of champions. What other? I mean, this is an
never
official,
before.
This is an official recognition of supreme excellence that you're going to have. And every governor. What name one thing today? Name one thing today that 48 governors of this country would agree on. Name one thing, and the president of the United States at the same time. Name one thing that the sky is blue. Hold on,
keep going down.
Do you think that they would all agree that the sky is blue?
Yeah, and probably not.
Probably not. Like, you would not find anything. But in this year, the season was so dominant that there was literally no debate that they would all sign this. They would all agree. I mean, that's what I mean. Like, it's just it's so great that there was no debate.
And there's a little thing at the bottom. It says presented at Traverse City, Michigan, as part of the National Cherry Festival.
Cherry Festival, sure. That's where it was presented. It was presented at the
in
Cherry
July
Festival.
of 1936.
Yeah.
Champions Day
at
Masonic Temple. This was something that they gathered
did after the fact.
Underneath all the signatures, there's a diver, baseball, football, hockey, and a boat racer, Garwood. Because Garwood was amazing. We haven't gotten to Garwood on the podcast yet. I'm so looking forward to Garwood. There was a bar down in the warehouse district called Garwood's.
I've never been to it.
I think it's long gone.
Yeah, I heard of it though.
But so that's everybody. If anybody remembers the bar Garwood's, that's who was named after, and it was one of these 33 championships.
Another story that I heard on the road with regards to Garwood was at his old house, which was on the river. Was like at one point it was like a Hare Krishna. It became like a Hare Krishna house.
Oh yeah.
And then it became like a Hell's Angels party spot.
Oh yeah, the Krishna mansion.
And then and so they were all partying there, and then the parties got so out of control that the house burned down from it. And then but on the road of telling this story at all these different art shows, people are like, man, I'm telling you, I've heard at no less than 50 people. No less than 50.
Yeah,
and that's a conservatively low
mansion.
numbers. Saying that, man, I remember partying at that mansion back in the 60s, and then that place was crazy, they're actually, that story was a frequent story.
The late 80s. I mean, it was still happening in the late 80s because
I
had people I never made it, but I had been invited to, and I didn't make it. But all right, let's get back to the plaque.
Yeah, the plaque. Yeah,
because this was presented at the Cherry Festival in July of '36, celebrating the 1935 year, and you can kind of perspective behind us. It's a good 4 foot tall.
It's big. It's real big, and I've I've seen
at least
it outside.
4 foot tall.
And sometimes they bring it out of the case for previous Champions Days. They've actually we had the Lindell Bar in the basement here 2 years ago, and they brought the plaque down to the Lindell Bar. And this thing is like just the big. It doesn't really look as big on the camera, but it is a monstrous.
I want to thank the Historical Museum for letting us come in and record here.
Yeah,
it's great to have this as the backdrop. But they got to be out of their minds because it was just the two receptionists, and they're like, "Oh yeah, go ahead."
Yeah.
And there's a table over there.
Yeah.
And so we're kind of in here. We got kind of carte blanche.
Totally. We got a few.
I might try on some of these uniforms back here.
Well, yeah. Anybody that's not been to his Detroit Historical Museum is totally. Well, anybody that's it's totally missing out because this historical museum is awesome. They've got this great fur trade exhibit. They've got some really cool stuff in here. And this room alone, they've got a wing of this glass case set aside for the City of Champions season. Yeah. And
so that's the thing. So this plaque, and that's why we're here, and that's why we're talking about it on April 18th. This plaque deserves to be part of Detroit's cherished history and celebrated, but that hasn't always been the case. It hasn't always been on display.
It hasn't always been on the case.
In the case,
this thing, the story of this. Okay, let me set it up. Let me set it up like this.
I want to, Charles, tell me the story.
Nothing
of this plaque.
Nothing encapsulates the forgotten nature of the City of Champions story like this plaque. Mm-hmm. This plaque is a physical embodiment of the forgotten component of this story. And anybody that's listening to this, anybody that's watching this, just think about this. When was the first time you heard about this City of Champions story? When was the first time that you heard that Detroit won their first 3 championships in the same season? When was the first time you heard that there was 33 championships in the same season? When was the first time that you heard of Champions Day? That there was a huge party at the Masonic Temple in Detroit. When was the first time you heard about these things? Was it today? Yeah. Was it the first time that you're listening to this show? Yeah. Was it maybe a couple of years ago that, you ran into somebody, myself at an art show that was, acting like some kind of snake oil salesman trying to sell you a book and you heard about this for the first time then?
Yep.
And so like I say, be honest. The first time I ever heard about it when I was a senior at Western in 2005. And I'm a diehard Detroit sports fan. Sure. I've been watching the games my whole life. I've been reading all the books. I've done all the good things that Detroit sports, all the things a good Detroit sports fan is supposed to do. Mm-hmm. Newspapers every day, yada, yada. And I have never heard of this prior to 2005.
No.
Right. And it was a footnote at the bottom of an old Detroit Tiger media guide. And so that's what I'm saying is that if we be honest with ourselves and come to terms with the fact that we're not born knowing everything, and that sometimes something, especially in history, sometimes things are forgotten. Sometimes things are for whatever reason, and we have a whole shows about, why the season was forgotten and all this, but for whatever reason, this story is widely and almost near universally forgotten.
Right.
And this plaque right here, as I said, set up this thing. This is a physical example of why, because the story of this plaque and how it was forgotten and how it got to the glass case that you see behind us now is something that should deserve a movie unto itself.
It really is. It's Raiders of the Lost Ark.
It's literally Raiders of the Lost Ark, right?
So do you know anything about the manufacturer and commission?
Yes, I've got all that right here in the book. So
of the plaque itself.
Yeah.
So who commissioned it, and then how did it come to be?
Well, let me lay out the story first, and then we'll go. We'll hit up in some of these, target some of the components of the story. Sure. So because I have all that and everything. So anyways, so the story goes like this. This plaque, nobody knows who commissioned it, who paid for it. But somebody did. Somebody paid money for this plaque to be commissioned, and it was made by the Kleiss company in Grand Rapids, which still exists to this day.
Oh, nice.
Yes, and so it was made by this Kleiss company, and then they sent these tabs out across the country to all the governors and to the president of the United States. They signed the wooden tabs, sent it back to Kleiss. They affixed them to the plaque, and then the Traverse City Cherry Queen came down from Traverse City and escorted. They took a photo of her with the plaque, which I have in my third book here.
Okay.
They took a photo of her before they put it in the case. And then it was shipped up to Traverse City, where there was a huge presentation on July 16th at the Traverse City Cherry Festival, where the governor was there, representatives of all the teams were there, and then it was presented. I have this tremendous photo. Maybe we can put it up at some point, but I have this photo of the presentation of the plaque, and so from that point, there's not an exact trail for what exact happened, but fast forward to 1983, okay, and a man named Bill Aitken was walking through he was one of the first early arrivals at the Armada flea market. Okay, and this plaque was sitting on it. The lady took off her tarp off of a table, and underneath this tarp was that plaque.
Holy crap!
With the
Armada, president's signature on it.
Yes, at the Armada flea market.
Every governor
in 1983.
In 1983.
Yeah.
So how did it get from on display at the Traverse City
So,
Cherry Festival to on the
See, I'll
garage sale table.
Yeah, so that's what I'm trying to say. So Bill Aiken, so he asked the lady how much the plaque was for, because the plaque was soaked in dew. It was one of those early morning dews. It was soaked in dew.
Oh my god!
And it was so soaked that the price tag that she had on the plaque was like in a Sharpie magic marker for $300. He couldn't even read. It was so wet that he couldn't even read the price.
Oh my god!
And so he asked her how much the plaque was, and she says, well, I've been trying to get $350 for it for the last, this thing's been in my garage for like the longest time. She said her husband had removed this plaque from a high school that they were tearing down.
Okay.
He was a construction guy and they were tearing down a high school, and that he had removed, they'd stripped this place of, from everything else. And this was like the last thing in the school that they had stripped.
If he had,
and this guy took it off the wall. Yes.
Demolished and in a rubble truck.
He took it off the wall, put it in his garage, and it sat in this lady's garage for so many years that she was like, I'm just going to sell it at this flea market. And she was trying to get $350 for it.
Sure.
It didn't sell for $350. It sat out all night, got water damage from this dew. And then the tag, and then when Bill Aiken asked how much it was, she said, you know what? I just want rid of it. You can have it for $35. $35.
$35.
So Bill Aiken bought this plaque for $35.
I almost swore.
Yeah, $35 he bought this plaque for. And then he took it to his friend, who I'm just going to make sure I get just his friend's right name.
Sam, can you jump back on your phone?
Yeah, so he
just once you get us locked in there. Can you
so his friend James Nicholson of Grosse Pointe, he turned it over to his friend.
What page is it? Oh, there you go. All right, go ahead.
Yeah. So he turned it. So there's the photo of the.
I'm gonna have Sam hit that with her phone.
Yeah. So he turned it over. So he gave it to his friend, Jim Nicholson, right, of Grosse Pointe. Yep. And so James Nicholson.
Yeah.
And so he had it restored because the water damage. So he had it restored. And so he after he had it restored, he donated it to the Detroit Historical Museum, because what else are you gonna? What better company to have?
It got here in 1984.
Yes.
So he bought it at a garage sale, 83. They fixed it up, and they're like, you know what? The city should have this.
Exactly.
That's pretty cool of him.
Yeah,
he's only out $35 in the cost of restoration.
And the cost of restoration. And you can still see one of the tabs has actually still got a little bit of water damage. So it's darker than the other ones. But anyways, so the Historical Museum at this time, they put it in. This is why we talk about the Indiana Jones.
Right.
That's the presentation of the plaque at the Cherry Festival. And then the right picture, that's the Cherry Queen posing with the plaque.
The one up here.
Top right there. That's her posing. Yep, that's her posing with the plaque in Grand Rapids before it's sent up to. And you can see, if you flip the page, you'll see the Kleist Manufacturing. They sent a letter to Bill Aiken actually talking about from their perspective, what they. How they made the plaque. That was a letter given to Bill Aiken.
So they never said who commissioned it.
Oh no, they didn't say who, but they confirmed that they were the ones. And in fact, on the back of the plaque, you see it says Kleist Manufacturing.
Cool.
So their stamp is on the back. But anyways, so what ended up happening? The reason we say it's like Indiana Jones in the Raiders of the Lost Ark.
So it got sent here in 1984.
It got brought here in '84. They put it in a box. And it got filed into the Historical Museum archives. Just like, like in the end of Indiana Jones, where they say, they put the Ark of the Covenant in the box. He goes, Indiana Jones goes, so what's going to happen to the Ark? And he goes, it's being looked after by top men. And he goes, which top men? And he goes, top men. And then you see it at the end, and it's being filed in a box, like 8 million other boxes. That's kind of how I imagine that, what happened in 84,
right,
when they're filing this way, because so from 84 till now, I don't know if they brought it out at all from 84 to then. I don't think it was brought out at all, but it sat in this box.
It got in 84, it went into storage here. When did you write the first City of Champions book?
This book came out in 2009.
2009.
Yeah.
And then you've been coming here doing Champions Day celebrations.
Well, the thing I was doing before that, like, we've been doing the Champions Day celebrations here for like probably 5 years solid.
Right.
But before this, our Champions Day celebrations, we were doing it at different bars. Like we had a Champions Day.
Will does like
Will McDonald does. He's the big champion.
The Eastern Market Brewery. They're drinking some Eastern some Champions.
Anybody that
Day
wants
stouts.
to go drink some beer, they actually Eastern Market Brewing Company actually has a Champions Day IPA, which is tremendous
Champions
beer.
Day IPA.
Yeah, 2 years ago I had a couple too many for the last Champions Day, and it's like,
but it's worth. What are you gonna do?
But I don't regret it. It was a great beer, and I don't regret it.
All right, so 2009, you wrote this. You're doing Champions Day.
Yeah, no. What I was doing was so fast forward. It was 2011.
All right.
And so
so you're 3 years into having the book published.
Yeah, the book started out for a couple 3 years, and by that point, like I say, just like the Champions of Plaque, like I try to put the first book out, and I get no hits from the media. They want nothing to do. Nobody wants to talk about this.
Sure.
So the only thing I could do was go out and tell the story myself. And so I was like I was doing art shows, cider mills, libraries, anywhere that anybody that I could stand there and talk to people. And sell, I was selling. That's how I made a living for years, was just, literally, like a snake oil salesman trying to sell a book. Like, hey, folks, step right up. This book will cure a broken leg. That's like whatever I could do to get a book sale is what I was doing. I was selling books. And so, anyways, so one of the events that I ended up doing, which I was fortunate enough to do, was in Midtown here. I live nearby this museum. Yeah. And so what they do right around Christmas is they have this thing called Noel Night. And Noel Night is what basically like every business hosts like a local business in their or an art. They host an artist in their business. And so there's like a featured artist for Noel Night. So because Noel Night, there's like there's just all kinds of events.
And there's carolers, and then I DJ'd a couple parties for Slaw.
Yeah, there's all kinds of cool stuff going on. So there's like thousands of people that come down here for Noel Night, and each place will have like something, there's like sometimes they have free gifts and stuff like this. And so it just really draws it's open, the museum is open on that night to like midnight or something. So which is really unusual. Usually only up till 5. So it's cool to come in at like 11 o'clock at night and stuff. So anyways, I was doing this. I was the guest for the historical museum for Noel Night one year. And so it was the craziest night. I mean, I was set up and I had my whole display set up with the City of Champions. And I'm telling you, it was like have you ever seen a snake? I'm like, stop right at the City of Champions. I told the story so fast and so furiously. Like I must have told this story 1,000 times that night. I mean, it was just crazy. There was so many people here. It was just jam of people. And I'm just telling City of Champions this, City of Champions that. And so so at one point, I finished up that night, and hold on one second. Let me just look at something real quick here.
Yeah, we're trying to figure out when this from 1984. When they discovered that this was in their possession. So they have something.
Yeah. So anyway, so that night, so I'm telling this like City of Champions this, City of Champions that. And so at the end of the event, a lady named Tracy Irwin, who works, and she still works for the museum here, has been a friend of mine for a long time now, since this night especially. She comes up and she says, you keep saying City of Champions, but she goes, when I first got here at the museum, I was like looking through some of our archives, and we have this big wooden plaque in the basement, and it says City of Champions on it. And I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about, but let's get it out. Yeah. Right. And so we had talked, it was a couple days later or so, and she got it out. They brought it out. We had it laid out in this table upstairs. And I walk in and I'm like, oh my God. I mean, you can see, you're just like looking at this massive wood, and the base of it was broken off. I'm looking at this thing going, oh my, I mean, it's not hard to tell exactly what it is when you're looking at it. It says, from the text on it, the ornate reliefs on the bottom. And then the sign by the governor, the governor of every country, state, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, you're sitting there going,
you got this sitting in a box for,
I'm like, man, this is the plaque. This is official validation that this was a big deal, you know? And so anyways, they actually were building this new wing in the museum, and it was like a Detroit sports wing of this museum. Sure. Yeah. And so they were like, well, this would be a great thing to like put in a permanent exhibit, let's get this thing out. And so they did. And so here it is. And so, it's
so from 1984 to 2011, it sat in a box until you were here pitching your book to Noel carolers and random drunkards in the city.
Yeah, and Tracy, I made that connection with Tracy Irwin.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, so that's like one of the dividends paid off by doing this is that we were able to get this. This plaque, and then actually the day that they brought the plaque out, this was I believe it was 2012. The Champions Day of that day. We were able to get, the history. I take no credit for this. I did have a petition to bring back Champions Day at that time, but the petition played very little part in it. Because the historical museum, they were able to get Dave Bing to sign back into legislation Champions Day. Nice. So Dave Bing re-signed Champions Day back into effect. Like, not that it was lost, but it was but it was like a modern day, like, so at the time it was the governor of Michigan, city council of Detroit. So those are the two legislative bodies that declared Champions Day.
Yeah.
Now there's a third, which is the mayor of Detroit in the modern day.
Sure.
And so like somebody told me one time, they're like, well, there's a million holidays out there. There's like, National Milk Drinking Day,
right,
and National, Moron Day, or something. I like, whatever day, there's all kinds of days. And me too. I'm saying, but the mentality was, there's a day for everything, right? There's a day for everything. And my mentality is, there is a day for everything. This is Champions Day. And the only thing that separates us from this day from being like just a dumb, just like another random day that a bunch of random people, look at, and actually being a citywide or statewide like institution in which we can do some really cool stuff is merely the desire to do it. I mean, if we want to make this thing big, if people are interested in it, then we will. If people are not, then we won't. Detroit
City of Champions is a trilogy's a book. It's a screenplay that is going to be on the silver screen one day.
Yeah, we got a screenplay written for it and everything.
And it's a celebration every April 18th, and I hope more people get into it and celebrate it. Charles, there was some cool stuff in the Sam's kind of going through the case behind us. And as we sat down and as we were prepping here, you were like, they added some new things in here.
Yeah.
So people come down to the Detroit Historical Museum. And this is something, if you love Detroit or you like Detroit history, something to bring in and look. You can grab your microphone, Charles, so you can turn around and look and people can hear you still. So tell me what you see in this display case along with the Champions Day plaque.
Well, number one, you obviously have the plaque too. But the first thing I saw that was new addition that I had not seen, or at least I didn't remember from the last time I was here, is the silver trophy with the picture of Eddie Tolan down here.
Yeah.
That photo that you see on there,
right.
That photo is actually from the night. It was because Eddie Tolan won gold medals at the 1932 Olympics. He's a sprinter, and so what ended up happening is that he was, being an amateur sprinter made very little money. I mean, he just made very little money.
Runners don't make money today.
Yeah, but he was still famous in his day, and so he was doing like vaudeville acts with Bill Bojangles Robinson. And so he ended up but the Olympic Committee, just like Jim Thorpe, where they stripped Jim Thorpe of his medals for making money off of his, I don't think they stripped him of his medals, but they stripped him of his amateur status because he was using, his career as a sprinter to make money.
Oh, okay.
And so therefore they made him a professional. And so what ended up happening was he said, well, if I'm going to go professional, I'm going to go professional. If they're going to label me as professional, I'm going to go make money. Into Australia and won the 1935 sprint championship in Australia.
Nice.
So that photo is him posing with the banner with the 1935, shortly after winning this championship.
So is he is he one of the champions? He's one of our 33 champions?
Oh yeah. He's on the newspaper right here and everything.
Okay.
Eddie Tolan is he was, especially in his day, he was a big name.
All right. So we'll hit on him at one of the episodes.
Oh, sure. Yeah. He's one of the main guys. And so that, looks like, and I knew it before I even looked at the tabs, that it had to have been donated by the family, because I actually seen a replica of that photo somewhere, and I have that photo in my book. I think it was issued as a card, like a sort of like a souvenir, like postcard at some point. And that's when I knew, when I saw the actual thing. I mean, that's an original. I mean, the postcard, whatever was made, was based on that picture.
Yeah.
So that's when I saw that. I'm like, man, this is something the family donated, because this is, because it's an original, and then true enough, when you look at the cards, it actually has his just says donated by his family. So that's a big deal there. And then
there's a bronzed boxing glove in there,
yeah,
and I don't see a tag.
We're gonna have to
read
the it's on this green front.
Oh, it's down here. Okay, Joe Louis boxing glove used in a fight with John Henry Lewis, 1939.
Okay, yep, there you go. So it must have been bronzed. Yeah, they bronzed the glove. That's cool. So that's not necessarily relevant from 35 per se, but
yeah, because in 35 he had 27 wins, 23 on knockouts, right?
I'm so bad with
it's on the poster up
there.
Is it?
Okay. There you go. Got it. Okay.
But also on the poster up here, it says there were 20 championships. And I'm like, you guys are missing about 13.
Missing a bunch, yeah.
But so at least 20.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've got 21 listed just on this newspaper.
Yeah, yeah.
But anyways, so another cool thing, which is up in that top right corner.
Yeah.
That is a photo from the first Thanksgiving game. Detroit
Right.
Lions versus Chicago Bears. That was 1934, the year right before this.
Yeah. And
So
that's when that
deal.
Thanksgiving tradition began.
Yep. I don't even have that photo in my books. That photo, I don't know where they got that, but that's a very rare photo right there.
The owner, just the thing says from the Detroit Historical Collection.
Yeah, they had it in their own collection. Yeah, that's a very rare photo because I do have some photos from the 34 game, but not a wide angle of the entire, because that was at the University of Detroit Stadium. That's where they first played. And I have a lot of I have a lot of photos from the first Thanksgiving game, but not one with that wide view where it's got the fans and, where it's got the entire, you see the entire, the panoramic of the entire situation.
I love Sam is stretching and getting all this footage for us.
Yeah. And then bottom right-hand corner, we have Garwood. There's photos of the couple boats there. So if you look at the photo, it says Miss America 7 and then Miss
America 5.
Yeah. So
there's a replica of the boat.
And then the Miss America, that's the Miss America 10 right there.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the granddaddy. I just want to make sure that's
it's like a boat. It's like a boat on a skateboard. It's like a motor on a skateboard. It's like, it's just
Sam, when you're done filming that, if you want to come up to this newspaper, you can see that Miss America 10 in action on this newspaper right here.
Okay.
This is the real deal. And that boat still exists.
Oh, really?
That boat still exists. Yeah. And so, what's interesting, I wait till we get into the Garwood, man. We're going to do like 10 episodes on Garwood because he deserves a movie unto himself. But you have these insane, I mean, back in the early, everybody remembers cars and the evolution of cars from like the Model T to the, to these, later version in the 20s and 30s and 50s. Everybody knows about the evolution of that. But the evolution of speed on water has got this fascinating, just unbelievably fascinating story that is just very rarely ever talked about. And Garwood was the very centrifugal force upon which all other innovations of boat buildings, especially in the world of speed, revolved around for the entire first third of the 20th century. I mean, he was the guy that the speed on water was Garwood. And so look at that engine on that boat, man. It's like 100, I think it was 120 miles an hour in this wood boat that he was going. And he was pronounced legally dead 2 times through the course of his career. And they revived him on the shore. One time both times because the boats blew up. Jeez. But one time he actually had his throat slit by a piece of wood when the boat exploded, and he was pronounced dead. I mean, what are you going to, his throat was slit by a piece of wood. What are you going to do? And then they patched him up and he survived somehow.
And he's kept on boating.
That's what I mean. His story is incredible. And I can't wait to get to him. But
then there's some nice relics in here. There's a Rawlings football helmet.
Yep. Looks like a
catcher's mitt.
1930s
and those are both circa 1935.
Yeah, I'm not sure if those are particular from any specific thing, but it's
just that era of that. And then there's a hockey stick from the 30s.
Yep.
And seats from Tiger Stadium from they pulled them out in 1940.
Yeah.
So they may or may not have been there in 35.
I'm sure they would. If they were pulled out in 1940, then they probably were there in 35.
So amazing stuff. Again, the Detroit Historical Museum. We really appreciate
it's a great
them
spot. Just
letting
this little
us come
City of
in.
Champions case is tremendous. And
there's so much to see around the museum. Sam, duck down the hallway there, and as Charles and I are wrapping up, and people can kind of see there's a really cool car right around the corner. There's like some really great stuff.
Yeah, again,
I love that we have our roving reporters.
Yeah, my favorite is the fur trading exhibit. I just love it. It's so cool. They show some of the different type of buildings and stuff that they had here.
So,
so
that's the plaque. That's the metaphor that is
because you got this
Detroit City of Champions.
Yeah, because you got this incredible. I mean, this should be the most important piece of memorabilia in Detroit sports history. Think about it. I mean, it's
sold at a garage sale, covered in dew.
$35. Somebody buys it and has to restore it on their own. I mean, it really is incredible. And as for your question of what happened between 1936 and 1983, the answer to that question is nobody knows.
It was hanging in a high school.
It was hanging in some high school. And this is according to a lady that was selling, this is a second and third, this is Bill Aiken talking about the brief conversation he had with this lady on the day he bought it, which nobody, that's what I mean. Like, it's like a secondhand story, where's the firsthand story that said oh, we put the plaque in this museum or in this high school, like which high school got chosen for such an honor?
Was it a different thing and then became a high school?
Could have
was
been.
it like a city?
Those are all questions
building?
We have no idea because of this lost story, because the story is we're putting it together 81 years later. And, that's what I'm saying. It's it's a lot of cases, it's ad hoc, it's like, somebody told me this and this person told me that. Like, where's the official documentation for any of this that said that this incredible plaque, I mean, like to say, this is, what did happen? If anybody has any clues or any ideas, I'm always open to new information. And, like I say, I don't know what high school could possibly be chosen for this honor. I mean, it'd have to be something that was like maybe that high school had some championship and they put it in there or something. But I don't know.
The Detroit Historical Museum, these stories come to life here. You can see all the things. I love the from the 20s Prohibition. They got some great stuff. There's a Tommy gun over there and a flapper's kind of dress. And
there's a lot of great stuff in here.
Yeah, it is.
They got a Red Wings exhibit over here, right across the room here.
Amazing space.
Sam's getting over there to it.
So, I don't know. That's I think that covers what we needed to talk about.
Yeah, well, the biggest thing is
the City of Champions.
Well, yeah. So, anyways, what we hope to do is show like this every year for these Champions Day thing, and the idea being like, and we've actually over the years with the events we've done have changed pretty regularly. Like some days it's just like I do a speech and we have just a bunch of drinkers at a bar. Yeah. And other days one time we played softball at Tiger Stadium, the grounds of old Tiger Stadium, which was really cool. Last 2 years ago, we had the Lindell bar set up and we were drinking and doing speeches. And sometimes I've showed a movie here before. We've done other stuff. And
so, we're
making it up as we go.
The Detroit Historical Museum wanted to do more and wanted to have a public event and invite people in. But just with COVID numbers with the way they are, we couldn't really do that this year. So next year, the plan is, but the Detroit Historical Museum themselves, they have a plan for a panel discussion with you along with 2 other authors.
Yeah, it's going to be cool.
And then I'll be there chit-chatting with you guys and then talking about all kinds of Detroit sports history. Yeah. And then they're gonna host some trivia afterwards. And it's all gonna be online. So post if you're watching us on the Facebook, if you were there, we'll post the link there on Facebook. You can join us along for that as well.
Yeah, but I just want to leave the people listening for this with one idea, right? Like I say, back to this last component about there's a holiday, there's a day for everything like this. The future is the future is what we decide it's going to be. If this is something, if the celebration of Detroit, the celebration of the Champions Day doesn't necessarily have to be just a remembrance of 1935. It can be a celebration of all the great stories in Detroit sports history. And, it could involve the teams. I mean, imagine, I speculated this somewhere or another. I forgot, I don't think it was in my book. I wrote about it somewhere. Yeah. But imagine on the day, like right now the Tigers are playing, right? The Red Wings are playing. The Pistons are playing, right? The Lions are out of season, but the 3 teams are. Imagine a day where everybody walks into everybody is told, any fans that go to these games when they open, when they reopen it to fans, of course. Yeah. But imagine everybody goes in dressed in their Sunday best. Yeah. Imagine the thing that says, today is Champions Day. And if you come in dressed in your Sunday best, like women wear dresses, men wear ties and suits or whatever it is like this, everybody comes in their Sunday best, you get half off your tickets today, right? And or I'd say it like this: it's what it is half off concessions or some kind of big hook to get everybody there, right? It's 1935 prices or something like this, right? And so that the turnout at those games would be huge, and they could sell commemorative game programs that are just for this Champions Day. But the long and short of it is, how cool of an event would it be for all these different teams, on this at this moment, for the cameras pan out and they show the entire crowd is all dressed all super sharp, looking good.
Men wore ties and hats.
Yeah, but I mean, just saying, just everybody looking good on this one. I mean, it's almost like a theme day.
It'd be good.
And you know what I mean? And they pan out, and people around the country see this and go, "Look at Detroit, man! This is a unique sports town. This is a unique. I just think there's so many different sort of possibilities that you could do with it, and it's why not? Why would you not want to? And really, I think the thing that separates us from that is one is understanding just how big the story was, and thus the event that followed it, and 2, just the mere desire to do so. So that's why I think it'd be kind of cool to happen. But
all right, so there you go, Detroit City of Champions live from the Detroit Historical Museum. Thanks for listening. If you haven't already, go to the podcast, like, subscribe. It's available on all podcast
apps. YouTube. Yeah, we're really going to start putting a little more effort into the YouTube component of it. And
YouTube is
we have all the
archived
episodes. Yep.
All 30 of them are up on YouTube right now.
Soon to be like 100.
Yeah. So, all right. So appreciate everybody tuning in. Thanks again to the Detroit Historical Museum. Charles, thank you for all the work you put into the research of these books and keeping the story alive. And
we're making moves, man. We're gonna, like I say, we got the screenplay ready to go. We got some other moves coming. So,
all right,
DetroitCityOfChampions.com, and get the same thing for our YouTube, Detroit City of Champions at YouTube. So.
There you go. All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.